Wow, that intro there went a bit mad, but hey-ho. Good evening and welcome to your Wednesday edition of This is Ibrox. Tonight we'll be diving right into everything that's happened. Sorry, I'm getting background feedback here. Let's go again. Tonight we'll be diving into everything in the world of Rangers. So for this week, for the potential of Joan Jordan's arrival, Sima's return, Cantwell's possible departure, and everything else we can cram into 1 hour. As ever, we're live on YouTube, so please get involved in the comments. And if you could be so kind to like the video and to subscribe, and if you haven't already, we'd be gratefully thankful for that. Anyway, tonight I couldn't be doing this alone. I've got two fabulous guests, probably the best that This is Ibrox have got to offer. I hope none of the other guys are watching. Anyway, JB and Reiss. JB, how are you?
Yeah, very well, mate. I think this is my first one since the end of last season, so got to use it as a bit of a therapy, to be honest, and get a few bits off our chest, I'm sure, but keep it upbeat as we go along as well, so we'll see how we go.
Yeah, this is probably the first time you've actually been back in Britain since the season ended, am I right? You seem to be holidaying everywhere.
I haven't been too bad, so yeah, I like to escape the weather.
Good for you, mate. And Reiss, how about you?
Yeah, all good, mate. Just glad that international football's over and we're getting back to the real stuff now. Yeah,
I think the Euros was great when it started, all the excitement and everything that was going on, and just like 3 games a day sometimes, it really gets the juices flowing, and then it was a drag towards the end, and you're kind of like, right, I can't wait till club football comes back, and then you remember that we're Rangers fans and things aren't exactly straightforward with everything that's been going on. But anyway, we'll not jump in with the negative stuff, but we'll go for the positives. So news came out the other day, broke by all-round football ruiner Fabrizio Romano, saying that Joan Jordan has been targeted by Rangers. He said, what we do know about him, he would... Sevilla have rejected the proposal from Rangers from Joan Jordan to join the Scottish club on loan. Sevilla have no plans to cover part of the salary for Jordan as Rangers required. Deal currently off. Now, what we have learned since then, Reiss, is that Rangers will go back in with another offer. I think we had offered less than 50% of his wages. If I remember rightly, their director of football or president, as we call it there, Juan Horta, Victor Horta, sorry, terrible with names, has now came out and said that no, his time is up at Sevilla and we'll be looking to move him on. He's free to find another club. And what you're now hearing from the players' side is that he'd now come down to the idea that he's quite open to that. I'm not sure how much you know about him, Reiss, but looking at his profile online or how much you may have seen of him of the past, is this the type of signing we should be making?
Personally, it's no one that fills me with excitement, but I think I can see why it's been made. I think he's playing at a really high level. He's got a decent profile on midfielder for us, and he's definitely played at a level that's beyond most of our squad, if not all of it. He's consistently been there for a few years now, and he's played at that level that you sort of think, right, he's got a pedigree about him that if he comes, he's not going to be an absolute write-off. He'll at least have a bit of quality in the same way that you knew. Don't want to give anyone a bit of PTSD flashback here, but that we knew Kranjčar was going to be all right. We knew he was going to have a bit about him because he was a good player. He played at a good level. Jordan, I don't think will be as far gone in terms of being finished or anything like that, but I'm looking for more attacking signings, to be honest with you, instead of midfielders. But if it goes through, I think it's one I'll be optimistic about, but it's never going to be one that I'm going to be massively excited about, considering he's 30 and a defensive midfielder.
So you say that, Reiss, that he's 30, right? I'll throw this one back at you a wee bit because a lot of the fan base was split when we were linked with Kenny McLean, albeit that we would have been paying a transfer fee. He's 32. We're going at this guy on loan. We wouldn't be spending any of our transfer budget on it, and he is 2 years younger than Kenny McLean, playing in the position that he does. Would you prefer him to Kenny McLean in that sense if it was to be one or the other?
I think it's hard because Kenny McLean comes with intangibles, I suppose, of supporting the club, being Scottish, knowing the environment and stuff like that. But Jordan's probably the better deal financially, and I definitely agree. on paper, if it was up to me and I had to pick one between the two of them, I'd go for Jordan, because you saved the transfer fee, and who knows, I don't know Kenny McLean's wages, but they're probably a bit less than Jordan, so it maybe counterbalances there. But yeah, I'd go Jordan over McLean, definitely.
Yeah, and so the same question to you, JB. After it came out, the sort of Kenny McLean stuff wasn't really getting there. It had sort of stagnated a wee bit, and then reports came out that we were watching Lennon Miller and that there was a loan proposal put towards Joan Jordan. I hope I'm pronouncing that properly. I spent 1 week in Ibiza and feel like I'm fluent in Spanish now. Anyway, to me, that looks a lot smarter business, going for a loan deal for the experienced guy while, say, hypothetically, we're keeping money aside for a younger option. Do you think this fits the transfer strategy, and do you think that's a better way of looking at it if that is the case?
Yeah, I think so. I think in terms of the player himself, despite obviously the amount of appearances that he had, it wasn't a name that jumped out at me straight away. So obviously then you go in, but I'm not being funny. You don't play the amount of games that he's played. I think I was looking at it. It's about 130 odd games since 2019.
Over 200 La Liga appearances.
Yeah, you've got something going for you, and he was consistent in all the European runs as well. So he's definitely the profile's there. I think the style of play that he's got as well. From what we've seen, again, you don't want to judge too many players on YouTube. I think YouTube makes Cifuentes look all right. But in terms of the tools that he's got, it's something that we've been crying out for. He looks like a dominating figure. We'll sit just in front of the back four. To Reiss's point, he probably won't be spectacular in terms of looking to give us goals. I think he scored a handful of goals in his time. Can whip a free kick in his slight defence. So of the highlights I've seen, he does love to ping a free kick, and he took them a lot more for his previous club. But I don't think we've ever replaced Stephen Davis in terms of that guy who can sit in front of the back four and just dictate play. I think if we can bring someone like that in, and then if we can get a Lennon Miller or a Damian Garcia, I don't think he's signed that contract yet. I know there was talk that he was going to sign that contract with the club he's with in South America. But if you could bring that player in with one of them next to them, I think that would be ideal. It's definitely a position we're short in, especially with Raskin pulling up as well. That might actually accelerate the need for that. I see obviously the comments coming through in terms of where you'd rather spend the money. I wouldn't be throwing money at Kenny McLean. I wouldn't be throwing money at Jordan. But if we get these guys on the right deal and come in to do the job that we need them to do, it'll allow the front four to flourish, because we're desperate for that. We need someone that can sit there. John, and I think I've said this on every pod I've been on, John Lunston was never a Rangers number 6. If anything, he could have been a Rangers number 8, or he could have played on the right-hand side where he had all the success at Sheffield United. But for some reason, we managed to try and turn him into a player that he just wasn't. He was actually a better centre-half than what he was a number 6. So, yeah, I'm up for it. I definitely think it's someone who will enhance the team. Hopefully, he could it's someone who you'd like to think can hit the ground running. And he had a couple of injuries last year, so hence we wouldn't be linked to him if he didn't have injuries, would we? So, yeah, I'm all for it. I definitely think a loan is the way to go with someone like this. Obviously, different culture, different league, different mentality. Interesting to see when he jumps into a first 50-50 on a plastic pitch or something. It'll be a bit of an eye-opener for him. But definitely in terms of the European, we'll have a lot of European games, hopefully in the Champions League or potentially in the Europa League. So him bringing that experience, I think will be invaluable. So no, I'll be up for that. And just to finish on Kenny McLean, I think he'll if the deal was right for him, I think it would be a good deal, or the deal was right for us, you should say. However, if there's other clubs, I see Sheffield United are looking to pay just shy of 2 million for him. We're not doing that. So I think the only way we'd be looking at a Kenny McLean is if we were picking him up for in and around 1 million. I don't think wages would be too much of an issue by the sounds of things. But at the end of the day, if you're the selling club, pure Norwich and Sheffield United are offering you 2 million and we're offering you 1 million, it's taking out their hands, isn't it? So it doesn't matter who you support. It doesn't matter who the player supports. The club's going to look after themselves. So, but yeah, no, it's going to be one to keep an eye on. But definitely looks like I'd like to see us bringing in someone of that ilk, that experience, who can sit just in front of the back four and allow the front four to play, and then an understudy to come in as well alongside. Mightn't play as many minutes, but someone who could be in and around and get that invaluable experience.
Yeah, so you mentioned there an understudy, and potentially that could be Barron, for example, that's just come in. And Reiss, I'm going to come to you.
Sorry.
One.
I was just about to jump in and say Barron starting for me regardless. So he's,
you're very eager. First one back. You're all over the field. You're covering every blade of grass. I love it. Anyway, Reiss, from CGM55 in the comments, and guys, keep the comments coming. They've been great. If you've got any questions for myself and the guys, just fire them in the comments and I'll get to the best of them. Nothing rude, please. So Reiss, where does Barron fit in? He was our best player against Ajax. Admittedly, the competition wasn't high, but he looked energetic and good on the ball. Where do you stand with that?
I think for me, Connor Barron's an 8. I don't really rate him as a 6. I don't think that he's going to be that sort of destroyer that we're looking for in there. I think if you were to pair him up with maybe Diomande, I think that's quite a dynamic 2 in the middle of the park. But then comes the question, do you put Cantwell in front of them? Or if we get the likes of Jordan or McLean in, do you put one of them behind that pairing? Because I think Diomande and Barron's got to be the 2 8s for me this year. It just depends whether or not we go with a 10 or a 6 in front or behind them now.
Yeah, I totally agree. And JB, I'm going to come to you with this comment. It comes in from 72 Reiss. I've got no idea who he is, and it says sign effing wingers, okay, which gives me a nice wee segue, Reiss, into Phil Clement actually done a series of interviews with Rangers TV following the training camp in Amsterdam, and one of the things he did say is that the club are still actively pursuing Abdallah Sima. Now, with regards to Sima, for me, and I think many others, he would be very, very high on our transfer list of priorities. Again, money dictates. For you, how high does Sima rank, and how much is too much to pay for him?
Yeah, for me, I think it would be a case of you're going to be looking in and around the 6 million mark, aren't you? I think if you're going any more above that, I think it probably falls under a gamble. I like him. I'm a massive fan. If you'd have asked me that after 44 minutes of the Champions League qualifier against PSV at Ibrox earlier last season, I thought it was the worst performance I've ever seen from any level of player. I remember screaming, saying, "Get him off!" before it was a Rickson moment. And then he scored that screamer. So I don't think I've let that one down yet. But no, I think he's massively important. I think I was interested in Clement's words. I thought he went quite deep on it in terms of saying how much he loved him, and he's his boy and stuff like that. I thought that was really encouraging. Super quick, super direct, strong. Really good age in terms of a profile for us. I think from 23 years old, still got loads more to go. Can play on either side, can play as a 9. Unfortunately, we only really seen him in a 9 in desperado situations, obviously coming on in the cup final, but the blind man could see he wasn't fit. So it was almost a case of, right, how do you judge that? But he's another one. If he'd have stayed fit, and how many times have we said that? He'd have hit 20, 25 last season. Absolute no bother from the wing. So that would be definitely one that I'd be looking to push the boat out for. I think he's probably the one that we probably spend the most amount of money on. I think all the other players that we bring in based on the wage structure will be below 6 million. There's no way we're going to go above that in terms of a transfer fee. Because when we talk about transfer fees as well, people say, oh, and even if you look across the city, there's an outcry for them to maybe spend like a 10 million or a 12 million, obviously, as we were doing on Flow years ago. The problem you've got now is us and them. We can't break that wage structure. So you're not going to get a 10 million pound player, 8 million pound player for less than 50 grand a week. Because if the rate of that amount, a championship team will give them that. Leicester City were playing Jamie Vardy 100 grand a week last year to play in the English Championship. So we're not going to be able to compete with wages, both us and them, across with giving the money that's on offer across Europe. So I think he ticks so many boxes. How many players come to Ibrox and freeze as well? Really good players, lots of talent, lots of skill. We know that he won't freeze. He'll almost be good to go for the start of next season. So I'd be all aboard if we can get Sima. All the better if we could get him on another loan to buy. So
100%. Reiss, I know you've said there, like, we need to sign wingers, get wingers in the door. And we've already signed Oscar Cortez that plays off the left, and undoubtedly he's a starter every week. And JB touched on it. If we were to sign Sima, would you see him as a winger, or would you prefer him through the middle as a striker, as opposed to us splashing the cash and, say, for example, is it Albin Rahmani, his name is, who's valued at almost the same price?
See, I think personally, if it's down to one or the other, I'd go Sima now, because I think Sima's an out-and-out winger. I've never really bought the trying Sima as a 9 thing. I think the way he gets his space is somebody moves across, he'll go through a half space and go through. You don't get that much space in the middle. Wingers typically get one full-back marking them. Strikers always get 2 centre-halves. You play against a back 5, you get 3. So I don't think he'll get the space through the middle, personally, to thrive at Rangers for me. And the only reason I would say Sima over Rahmani now is because Dessers as a striker is stronger than McCausland as a winger. So if you want to bolster your squad, you target your weakest link, which for me now is wingers. I was saying the other day, like, the way it stands now, our wingers, if you take Cortez out of the equation, are all right for Hearts. Scott Wright and Ross McCausland are all right for Hearts. They're by no means excellent for Hearts. I don't know that they start for Kilmarnock ahead of the likes of Armstrong and that, and I'm not saying we should sign him either, but it speaks to the level of desperation we need wingers in, because our attacking options now are absolutely tragic.
Yes. I get what you're saying there about the options and stuff like that, and I think you're bang on the money with folk like Scott Wright and McCausland maybe being just enough for Hearts, right? We do have a very bloated squad at the moment. And your point about Sima, by the way, if you remember back to the Hearts game, the 1-0 game, Danilo through the middle, Danilo drops in, Sima comes into the gap, playing off the left. I'm very much on board with that, because I think for me, fully fit Danilo starts ahead of fully fit Dessers, and that's where we are right now. But another guy I want to touch on who's been in the news of Rangers, and he's pretty much been all over every television screen in Romania, is Ianis Hagi, who got married at the weekend, and it was actually broadcast on national TV. He's pretty much the Prince of Romania at the moment. Reiss, I'm going to throw it back at you because we're still on the subject of wingers here. Hagi played off the right for Romania in the Euros, and for the time I watched him and he was on the field, I felt he done pretty well. And for me, watching it, I was thinking he could do a job off the right for us. Now, I know through his agent being so vocal that we've not found a suitor for him yet, if we're talking about a permanent move or a loan deal. If we're not getting serious money, anything above 2 million for Hagi, do you think we would be as well holding on to him and playing him off the right?
It depends who else we can shift. I think I would quicker shift Scott Wright than Ianis Hagi. But in the same breath, I would shift Tom Lawrence before I would shift Ianis Hagi as well. So it depends whether you can get those other players off, or if there's absolutely nothing in the market for them, then you start pushing the boat a bit more with Hagi. I don't think there's... I wouldn't be opposed to keeping... Or, no, not keeping, sorry. I wouldn't be getting opposed to selling any of them. I think all of them can go for me. I don't really think Hagi's cut it at Rangers. I don't think he ever has. I think he's flattered deceived, to be honest with you. But I didn't really see him at the Euros. But seeing that he's not starting for Romania doesn't really fill you with confidence, really. It's not like he's in one of the top 6 nations at the competition where he can't break into the starting 11. They've done well, but they're a really average nation, I would say. They're probably on par with Scotland. And to not even make it in the 11 and be getting kind of token minutes in the third group stage game, I thought, you're not really filling me with confidence here. I thought he was their main man leading into this tournament, and it kind of speaks to the kind of fall from grace he's had, albeit for that injury that he's not even starting for them now. So for me, Hagi's not good enough. I don't think he has ever been personally, but if Clement takes him in pre-season, has a look at him day by day, and I think I've always said there's no point in having a manager if you don't trust his judgment. So if we get him back in pre-season, Clement has a look at him, fancies him, then we've just got to back the manager.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. You've got to back the manager on it. If he fancies him, then fair enough. And JB, going back to the point about Hagi having a future or not at Rangers, I think my point was I don't think he could do much worse than McCausland, and that's not me being terribly harsh on McCausland. I think he done okay last season. His first season breaking through, we might still see the best of him. And in terms of that right wing sort of slot, we've not really signed anyone in there that could sort of fill the boots of, I don't know, I can't even remember the last time we signed a right mid. I hate to mention Candies because everybody's going to want his return until he's 45, 50. We do need an out-and-out right winger. Now, for me, I do mention Hagi being a better option than McCausland, but would you agree if I said that we should be giving youth a chance out there, not just McCausland, but guys like Lovelace who impressed in that St Mirren game that Stephen Davis was in charge before he got his injury? Could these guys do much worse than, say, for example, Scott Wright?
No. Just to finish off on the Hagi piece, I think in terms of the reason why he wouldn't have been playing, I think Stanshew was kind of in his position. So he was the boy that takes all the free kicks and everything. I think he's kind of their main man. He scored a cracking free kick against us for Red Star, was it? I think Red Star. So I think he's kind of ahead of Hagi in the pecking order. And obviously Hagi hadn't played a lot of football at Alaves, so I can't see him particularly walking in. And they play a lot of energy, Romania. Do you know what I mean? So if you've seen them, they run themselves into the ground. And as we know with Ianis, don't think that ever was or ever will be his game. He's definitely the slowest player I've seen in terms of such a young age, but he has got technical ability. I think to Reiss's point earlier, if Hagi, Tom Lawrence, Dow, Scott Wright all played the same amount of minutes, I'm gambling Hagi scoring and creating more goals, so certainly creating more chances over them guys. So if you go with that logic and the fact that we know that we're not scoring enough goals, we never last season, we never the season before, the fact that we know he has got the ability to do, we've seen it with our own eyes, he can do that, albeit he's had the major injury since. I definitely think it's going to be worth a look. Again, would I be building a team around him? No. But one thing that I'd like the managers to probably do is take a wee look at him. I definitely think he won't be sure to suit us. Now, whether that's in the money that we want, I mean, if Galatasaray were to come in and buy him even just for shirt sales, they'll make the money back 10 times over. And they'll know that. Do you know what I mean? So any money we could get in for him, then I'd be taking it. But if there's nothing there that's attractive, I'd be more likely to keep him than send him out on loan, unless he's on mega wages, which I don't suspect he is, considering we brought him in from Belgium. So we'll have a look at that. But in terms of the youngsters, there's a massive opportunity there for them. If Tavernier is to go, though, that's one thing I would say, that might potentially change the dynamic of the type of play we want on that right hand side. It won't be long once Tavernier goes that we'll be wanting him back. I think it's right that he goes. I think we need a clean slate. I think it's a mentality shift that we need. We're not going to sign a better right back than James Tavernier. We're not going to sign somebody who's got the technical ability. We're not going to probably sign someone who's got the engine that he's got, albeit it's slipped off over the last few years. But I think in terms of the culture shift that we need, him and Goldson, then I think say Sterling plays in that right back position. We can't be surprised if Sterling finishes the season with 1, maybe 2 assists, because it's not his game. He's a defender. He's a centre half that plays right back. Do you know what I mean? So, so what the point I'm trying to make with that is whoever does slip into that right hand side is going to need to give us numbers. They're going to need to give us big moments, like Tavernier in the cup final against Aberdeen. We're going to need players that can give us them big moments when we need it. So whoever we do sign to come into that right hand side, it's got to be a player that's looking at double figures for goals and assists. I know we always jump back to the 55 season, unfortunately, because that was the time that we had the most success. But your Hagis, your Arfields, your Roofs, they were all chipping in with double figures. And that's what we're going to need to be successful, especially if we go with a 9. That is Dessers or, I dare say, Danilo, who I'm sure we'll get to later on.
Yeah, and somebody, when you talk about figures and having to produce a wee bit more in that attacking sense, Todd Cantwell's name would probably creep into the head of just about everybody. in terms of these interviews we discussed about Clement, JB, one thing that kind of jumped out was when asked about James Tavernier was he had a little knock, and when in the same breath, speaking of Todd Cantwell, he says there's a little thing there. He didn't very much elaborate on that, whether it was an injury, whether there had been a falling out, or where they stood. Now, I think what we know from last season is that the relationship from the two isn't exactly sort of love at first sight. It doesn't look great from the outside, put it that way. In terms of Todd Cantwell, I don't want to say as much as does this spell the end for him, but can you see him playing in a Rangers jersey next year? For me personally, I've been on here and said it in record, he's probably one of our best, if not our best player that can be influential. Knowing that we don't have cash to splash, and I don't think we would get sort of ceiling value for Cantwell just now, would it be the right decision to let him go?
It's a good question. I think in terms of it would have to be the right deal. I think to your point, say for example we shifted them for 3 million. Could we spend 3 million and get a better player? The answer is probably not no. But could Clement get someone to do a role that he wants him to do for 3 million? So it's probably a different spin on it. Cantwell technically is probably the best player that we've got in terms of ability on his day. The unfortunate thing is he hasn't done it in any big moments for me. One Old Firm goal. Now, the cynics could say once the league was already won. I don't think he's laid a glove on them in terms of the 3 or 4 appearances he had against them last season. Albeit probably went into a couple of games not a 100% fit. He's an Ibrox player for me. So in terms of at Ibrox, when you've got plenty of the ball and you need someone to open the door, then someone like Cantwell, I dare say a Hagi, that's where these guys will probably come into their own because they're technically so much better than everyone. His performance against Dundee towards the tail end of the season, he covered every blade, almost as if he had a bit of a point to prove. He scored that goal, obviously, from the right-hand side that ended up in the back post. But he's another one, 8 goals last season. So here's me talking about he's technically our best player. He's one of the best players in the league. He scored 8 goals and he's a luxury. So again, if we need to be replacing these guys with numbers. It needs to be players that can give us them numbers. 8 goals for a player who gets given the license that he gets given. I know he was put on the right wing for a couple of games. It was nothing major. He should be looking at easily double figures, easily. He should be posting numbers like they're posting with the likes of O'Reilly. If you think how tight the league was at one point, he should be going through purple patches like that where you go on his days unplayable. But unfortunately, we just haven't seen it. I think the trust piece there with Clement strikes me as someone who is very old school. Like, if you give Clement the choice, would you want your players on social media or do you not want them on? You probably wouldn't want them on. I know he is on social media himself, but that'll be done through an agency. And he'll probably just approve it. He's not sitting there on his phone updating his Insta. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so, I think he had said that in one of his opening sort of press conferences.
It's a management team that does it for him, and that's just to keep him relevant in the world of football. But no, he's. If Todd Cantwell can turn up, then great. I'd love him to stay and love him to go. But I just don't think he might be the right player, wrong time at the moment. The signs don't look good, do they, for him? So, and the fact that Clement didn't trust him towards the end of last season in the big games, cup finals and stuff, then it doesn't look great, does it?
No, I don't think so, not at all. And there's just so much noise surrounding him and so much noise that's not really needed in a team. You look at big managers like Sir Alex Ferguson, for example, when there was any noise surrounding the successful Man United teams, these guys seem to get shipped out, your Beckhams and your Jaap Stams of the world. And I'm going to come to you, Reiss. Just quickly before I do that, I've got a comment from Ian Mitchell here saying, only way Cantwell should go is if we're dropping to a flat 3 or a defensive midfielder in midfield. Won't replace him ability-wise for the fee we would get. So that's hard to disagree with. And another comment here, so keep the comments coming. They've been excellent. We'll get on to the best ones that we can. I'm going to come to you with this, Reiss. Cantwell invites too much pressure on himself with his Instagram posts and then fails to back it up. I mean, how many times have we seen that? And do you think this is what kind of takes Clement's focus away from how good Cantwell could be. It's almost the noise that surrounds him.
To be honest with you, I don't think Clement will be paying any attention to that. I think it's more a fans thing. Like, I don't think for a minute Clement's going, oh, Cantwell's put up another post on Instagram again. Like, I think that is purely down to footballing, and maybe personality-wise, she strikes me as a bit of a guy about the dressing room that you would think, you're going to just shut up and do a job for me, like, rather than just trying to... You can imagine Cantwell's getting in people's ear, like, give me the ball here and give me the ball there, and just no... almost sort of directing away from the manager more than anything else. But for me, I think you only get rid of Cantwell if you're replacing him. I think if you take Cantwell out of that team now, it's all right saying he's not a league-winning Rangers player or whatever. But if you're going to replace him, you sell him. But you don't sell him and then not replace him. Because if nobody else as good as him in the squad at doing what he does, I don't think there's any other midfielder that could carry the ball the way he does. And it would just lead to us being side-to-side shoehorn again. But for me, I feel like I'm watching Josh Windass again. But Josh Windass backed up with goals. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those ones where you're going, mate, going to just wrap that, going to just come off this, going to no do that, and just focus on football, because you're actually a decent player when you want to be. Aye, you're inconsistent, but you've got flashes of goals and a wee bit of flair about them.
Yeah, so I'll stick with you, Reiss, on another comment that's come in here from Thomas H. He's saying, I don't think Cantwell is limited to the 10 position. So you've kind of touched on it there, saying nobody can bring the ball forward as him, pick the passes. In terms of this comment, we've seen him off the right before, which didn't really work for player nor manager. Is there anything we can do more to get the best out of Cantwell, or not so much us, Clement? How can he get the best out of him?
See, I'm a massive fan of players aren't positions. Like, I don't think Cantwell's a 10. I think he's got qualities that suit him to playing there in the park, like carrying the ball forward, cutting lines with passing and stuff. I think he could play elsewhere, to be honest with you, but I don't think Todd Cantwell's got the mentality or the temperament to do it. I think even that time he was out in the right, Clement wasn't happy with him, Cantwell wasn't happy to do the job. I don't think he can trust him playing him anywhere else. I think Todd Cantwell's fixed in his mind that I'm a number 10, then that's where I play. I don't think there's any change in him personally. I think with other players, you give them that chance, you play them in different positions and see how they react to it, see if they're willing to do it. But I think with Cantwell, it's already been a failed experiment, and I don't expect us to do it again.
Yeah, again, hard to disagree with everything you're saying there. And I think we'll slightly move on from this as well. One player who actually appeared yesterday, guys, for the B team, which we didn't really expect to see when we've been training with him, is Sam Lammers. Now, JB, the reports that are coming out today from news over in Holland, I think it was from 20's camp, is that they can't afford even half his wage. It appears that we can't really move him on at the moment, even to get the money back which we spent on him due to his wage demands, which sort of opens a can of worms to why are we offering these wages to mediocre players in the first place? And what can you really do here? Like, I don't know if it's been taken out of content, Clement's words of we need to sell before we can buy. I think that's true for any side currently. But in terms of Lammers, like, where do we go from here? Because it is very apparent that we're not going to be able to move him on unless, from his side of things, he reduces his wage demands.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? I mean, he's obviously went over there. I would say absolute disastrous first few months at Ibrox, and just never really settled. I'll be honest, he's one that I thought was going to tick a lot of boxes for us, but then Rugby Path turned up, and you were like, "Uh-oh, we've got a problem here." He actually looked okay in pre-season. I remember watching him against Newcastle and thinking his movement's really good, some good touches, and you can see he's got loads of ability. But then that Kilmarnock game, he was genuinely non-existent and looked petrified. And then it was just downhill from then. There was obviously the Old Firm miss. There was the miss against Servette. And it was just, again, another one in the wrong movie. I think the fact that he's on double the amount of wages that other teams in Holland would look to offer, you'd probably say, how much should Sam Lammers be on? Even given the form he had last year, and you'd probably say, yeah, he'd probably on about 15 grand a week, something like that. The fact that reports are coming out to say he's closer to 30 grand a week is absolutely mental. and it just goes to show how much we gave Michael Beale free rein in the summer. He's probably rocking over there, selling the dream, and then probably selling the dream to the Rangers directors to go, we've won a watch here, let's go all in on him. The interesting thing is going to be is if we can't punt him, what do we do? There's no point in him sitting in the B team. We're going to have to find a way to get this guy integrated back into the team. I think there was a general feel that he would have been gone by now, hence the reason why he probably wasn't on any of the plans. You'd like to think there'd have been conversations with his agent to say, you know what, he's going to find something. I think it's been, this was my opinion, I think it's been poorly managed by the club as well. What harm would it have done for him to be training within and around the first team? Unless there's been a fallout behind the scenes that we don't know about, he doesn't strike me as anyone who's got, his character doesn't seem to give you the demeanour that he's ranting and raving. I don't think he's got that much passion in him, to be honest. So even just having him in and around the first team, just in case of a crisis situation at the start of the season, which we'll probably face into, or just the optics of it. So a club looking in on him and go, right, who's available? Say, for example, you're at a championship club and you're looking for players and you go, right, who's available? Well, you know what? There's a lad there that played in Holland last year and he broke records. He had, 14 goal contributions in 20 games. You go, you know what? He's at Rangers. They don't fancy him. Then let's take a punt on him. Let's throw a couple of million at him. Wages will be a piece of piss to pay. But then you look into it and go, he's training with Rangers B team. Come on. Then it's a red flag for me if you're a buying club. I know it doesn't always work like that, and I might be putting my football manager head on, but it's not. The optics don't look great with it. From a player's perspective, you can't blame him. I'm not half my wages to leave the job that I do today, so we can't expect him just because we love the club. But I think if it's not settled quickly, we're gonna have to just throw him in. We're gonna have to just throw him in, have him in and around the squad, get his confidence back up. It might potentially be one that we might have to shift post pre-season. So you're going to have to throw him into a couple of games. I mean, let's have it right. If we play Man United on Saturday and Lambs comes off the bench and scores 2, I mean, I haven't spoken nothing, then he's in the shop window, bang, straight away. You probably have a move within 48 hours. That's how the profile and the dynamics can change so quickly. But we need to find a solution for him, but definitely in the wrong movie for me.
Yeah, and Reiss, JB touched on something there about the optics of it from the buying clubs and clubs looking in at him. Now, I'm going to put up a comment here from Williams saying Clement has made a complete blunder with Lammers. He should never have been dropped to the B team. He would have come back with confidence sky high, bad man management. Now, with regards to that, I'm just looking for your point of view from the players' side. Do you think he could throw a strop and say, look, if they're going to treat me this way, then there's no way I'm lowering my wage demands, and if this is what they want, then I'll sit here? Or, like JB said, would you give him his chance in the first team? Does he deserve a second chance?
See, I don't think... I think there's probably a reason behind that. I've always found it a bit strange that when Clement came in, he said he spoke to a few of the players, and I think the phrase he used was he asked where the fire was, and a few of the players told him where that was. I reckon the players have said to Clement when he came in, he's a diddy, get him out, to the effect. Like, honestly, he's rotten, he's got to go. Something like that, because it was quite a quick turnaround for when Clement came in. He was never really given a chance, and he was punted in January. I think it's genuinely been to the point where players have spotted that he's not at the level and went, we don't want him here. And we don't probably want him training with us either. So if he was to come back, players would be going, surely we're not doing that same story again. He's not playing with us next season, no way. And I think that's maybe the message Clement wanted to send out. I don't think it's great either, personally. I would have had him with the first team. But now that he's in the B team, I don't think you can then go, actually, Mon train with us sort of thing. I don't think there's any coming back for it when you put somebody in the B team. So I think we've just got to accept we've made that choice and we've got to stick with it. A sort of thing I seen a few years ago, maybe it was, when Man United were looking to punt players, because they're obviously in a similar predicament to us, wherein they pay squad players higher wages than most other teams around about them can afford. So when they look to get rid of somebody, they're going to need to drop their wages no matter where they go. Similar to Rangers with Lammers. If we were to say pay Lammers, say he's in 27 grand a week for talking sake, and another club are willing to pay him 15. If we say we'll pay you 5 grand a week for the next 2 years just to get him off. And it gets us the funds in and out, gets us our transfer budget to go, and you can just kind of offset the payments in the accounts, basically, $5,000 a week. It gets us kicking on as a squad, it gets us a replacement in, and it gets us transfer fees that we can put in the books for this season as profit. And I think it's something like that we're going to need to do. Otherwise, he's going to end up out on loan, and we're going to end up just letting him go on a free contract in a couple of years.
Yeah, and extremely frustrating as it is, and it will keep being frustrating until he is actually out the door and we've moved him on, hopefully for a fee. Now, another thing that has been a bone of contention and extreme frustration is the Hampden situation recently. I don't want to spend too much time on it because it's been completely done to death. Now, Monday, the official statement was released to say that, if my notes would appear here, they're down here. Nobody can see this, I'm talking to myself, by the way. Rangers confirm agreement has been finalised with both the Scottish FA and SPFL for the use of Hampden Park for the club's home fixtures in the early part of the 24-25 season. Further to last week's update, the club is continuing work at pace on detailed plans for the transition of the National Stadium. At this stage, the club can announce the William Hill Scottish Premiership matches with Motherwell on the 10th of August and Ross County on the 24th of August will be played at Hampden, both 3 p.m. kickoffs. With draws still to be made, which is Monday, for the Champions League third round qualifying round and potential playoff round, plus a potential home tie in the Premier Sports Cup. The club will communicate news on dates and kick-off times for them once this information is confirmed. Now, Reiss, there was loads of reports floating about we could be out till end of October. We could be out of Ibrox till the end of the year. Rumours were floating about as well. Does this give clarity now that it is possible that it could be a maximum of 4 games, possibly 5 games? Is that more of a positive for the fans, or is there still a lot of questions to be answered in terms of how long is this going to take?
See, I think there's still questions to be answered. I don't think it says only for those games. It's good that it names them up until maybe August the 17th or something. I think that last 16 of the Premier Cup is. It's good that it gives you that sort of timescale, but it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest to see in about a month's time we're still at Hampden for another 2 or 3 weeks, because I don't think any of us know how long it's going to last. There's hearsay rumours of, oh, it's January, oh, it's October. Nobody knows. Unless you're working on that project and you've seen it firsthand, nobody knows. It's all hearsay, and I think it's not a good look for the club. We deserve to be ridiculed for it because it's shocking mismanagement, but it is what it is. Like, suck it up. Like, there's no anything we can do about it now. So to keep moaning about it and drag it on for weeks and we're playing at Hampden, blah, blah, like, mate, just let it go. Like, we're at Hampden now, that's what it is. For me, I don't think the club are in this position, but while we're at Hampden now, I genuinely wouldn't mind, and I wonder what your guys' opinion on this, because it was just a floating thought I had the other day, see, while we're at Hampden for the start of this season, why don't we just make it a year, expand the capacity at Ibrox while we're there? Bisgrove was talking about it years ago. He was talking about how much it would cost to fill the corners in and stuff. See, if we're going to be out at Ibrox for a while, we might as well make it for something useful. If it was for different facilities and that over the summer, being dislodged for that doesn't really make it worthwhile with the fans. If you're being dislodged and you're going to a better, more improved, higher capacity Ibrox next season, makes it a bit more easy to take.
I think that's far too much like common sense, Reiss. This has been in the planning for 2 years, and the elephant in the room as well is that the Broomloan has to be done next season as well. For me, I think I'm along the same lines as you, that I would be saying, right, this is going to be getting done for a period of time. We're going to be moving out Ibrox into Hampden until the work on the Broomloan and the Copeland is completed. Once that's completed, we'll move back in. But it seemed to me that the club were shopping around to try and get the deal for the builder that could get it done the quickest in terms of 6-7 week turnaround. For anyone that's ever been involved in the building trade or just watch general big projects, they're never on time. This has never been on time, so it's the forward planning that really upsets things. I'm going to sidetrack a wee bit here, JB, as well, and in terms of yourself, you head up the World Rangers Supporters Club. In terms of planning in Hampden, it makes things a wee bit more difficult with regards to general communication, what you do in terms of home games, differs from place to place. And in terms of the supporters clubs, I know that there's been a bit of backwards and forwards with the board this week with regards to a new process that's in place. I'd like to hear a bit of a balance view on it, because I've heard a lot of negativity from some of the bigger supporters clubs, and maybe you could explain it a wee bit better than I can. With regards to the new process, I think it's is it a lot around season tickets and away tickets that seems to be the point of contention for a lot.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, I think just to finish on the Hampden piece, probably for somebody that lives, obviously we all want to be at Ibrox because of the atmosphere and everything else that it brings and the convenience, and you don't realise how good you've got it until you have to go somewhere else. I think of it, someone who obviously I'll travel to Ibrox, whatever it'll be, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 times a season, and it's seamless as a rule. Other than the train strikes, it's actually okay. But even then, there's a time scale that you've got to be back in Glasgow Central for. Now, trying to get back to Glasgow Central after Hampden is a logistical nightmare. Obviously, you've only got Mount Florida train station. You're not getting taxis because everywhere's gridlock. You could walk it in probably about an hour, but I've got my dad there who's in his early 70s. You're not going to be starting to say to him, right, we've got an hour and a half walk back to Glasgow city centre just to make the train. You've got the boys coming over from Belfast in terms of boats and stuff, so it's just not ideal all round. The big one for me, where the whole thing is a sickener, is how much do we need this Champions League football, and we're going to be going into qualifiers in an away ground, albeit we're going to have more fans, but if you think about cup finals, you have more fans at Hampden in most cases. Doesn't necessarily make the game any easier for you just because you've got more fans. That kind of switches off as soon as them lads cross that white line in a different ground. Ibrox is different, I think, because you hear ex-players talk about it, how special it is. You hear Gary Neville on the overlap the other week just saying the noise was there. It was unbelievable. The only time I've ever heard anyone talk about that about Hampden since it's been rebuilt, I appreciate it might have been big back in the 60s and stuff, is probably Lee Griffiths' free kicks against England. Probably the only time you've heard somebody go, you know what, the atmosphere was electric. Now that's one in probably 40 years. Whereas Ibrox, you think about all them European nights we had over the run to Sevilla, Manchester, there were some cracking nights and so on and so forth. Yeah, the Subway loyal are going to have to leave now if they're going to want to make the Subway. But I think so that was our tuppence worth on Hampden. Go on, sorry.
I know. Just wait till you find out that the stadium stuff's just all a big smoke screen. It's the actual fact that Scott Wright won't leave and we're trying to get the best out of him. So we've moved
it. No, that might be it. That'll be it. Scott Wright masterclass incoming. Yes. But yeah, that's the Hampden side of things. In terms of the supporters club, so for those that own who aren't aware, there's been a change in process, the way that applications for mainly away games will probably work for next season, and that they're deciding what category clubs are going to be. This new ticketing website, which again we sat on here and give the club a bit of a bashing. For anyone that's had to purchase tickets through the new website, touch wood, I think I've bought 4 or 5 tickets on there now, and it's been absolutely seamless. So as much as we want to criticise, and that comes easy. The new website's superb. I've got to say I've been really impressed with it from a user face perspective, whether it be on your mobile or whether it be on a PC or tablet. You haven't got to do all that carry on anymore about opening an email, then logging in and logging out and adding fan numbers in. Which was an absolute nightmare. So it seems a lot streamlined. I bought my Berlin tickets through it, no bother, and what else have I bought on there? That wasn't the Ajax ticket. I can't remember what it was now, but Birmingham. So yeah, really good. And adding friends and family, really good. I had to go in today and change my address and stuff like that, and that was an absolute nightmare on the old site. I tried to change my address 3 or 4 times, just wouldn't happen. But it's really good. In terms of the RSC stuff, so there was a statement went out from the Rangers Supporters Association. I think it might have been last week, and what they've basically done is now, if you're a supporters club, you've got to put your season ticket number, you've got to put your fans' email address that's linked to the season ticket number. So the example I gave you offline, Kyran, is if you're a season ticket holder, last year there was potential you could have been registered to 4 or 5 different supporters clubs, whereas now Kyran can only be assigned to one supporters club. So For supporters clubs that are small, so I'd probably class our supporters club with circa 20 season ticket holders, then it's good news. But if you're a supporters club that over time has inherited numbers, like in terms of whether you've been on maybe European trips with the supporters club and then you've gone, oh, could you mind if we use your numbers next year, blah, 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 that's kind of going to fall by the wayside. There's pubs as well that have probably gone, oh, give us your season ticket number and you can go into a draw to win a free pint. That disappears like that. So it is going to be interesting. I can see why there's a fallout. I think where a lot of the fans are pissed off as well is the time scales that the club give us to do it. So you only actually had 18 days to get your registrations onto the website. Now, you know what it's like in terms of peak holiday season, trying to get hold of lads at the best of times. As someone that's ran Sunday League football teams, honest to God, lads turn into Harry Houdini. And it'll be the same for these guys trying to collate the numbers. Once you've got the email addresses, the customer will then get a email. They click, are you happy to be a member of the Wirral Rangers Supporters Club? You would say yes. Bang, you're linked to that account. I can then log in and see all the people that have accepted. So if anyone's listening in our club and they're still pending, please accept that email. Little reminder for them. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just kind of come at this a bit of a perfect storm in terms of how the fans are feeling just in general. This probably wouldn't have been too much of an issue if we just come off the back of a treble winning season and we were in the Champions League and we were signing players. But you add this to the list of kit prices, the time of year that it is, the short notice, just the general feel. I mean, certainly for away games, it's a massive emotive subject. The amount before all the hospitality members get their tickets, players get tickets. I remember being in Betis. I think I was in silver last year. I'm touching on gold now. I never got an official ticket for Betis. However, I bumped into a guy 10 Rangers fans who all got tickets off one of the players' babysitter. And that was the first European game they'd been to. So the players must be getting double figures tickets each. So if you're going to somewhere like Tynecastle or Parkhead this year, or European games with small grounds, hospitality, players, people in the know, friends of people in the ticket office, things are just disappearing. When you get away with it, when you look at it 5, 6, 7, 8,000. So like anyone that wants to go to Birmingham will get a ticket because I think we've got an allocation of 7,500. But if you look at games where you've got a smaller allocation, you'll see the same faces. Do you know what I mean? So it's going to be an interesting one. How it all pans out. Knowing the club, they'll back down and probably change the process to suit the loudest voice. But it will be interesting to see how things manage over the last few weeks. But it all just links back into me communication. Communication coming out of the club it's amateur hour. If us three were in charge of the communication coming out of Ibrox, I genuinely think we wouldn't be a million miles away from where we are. The social media interaction is next to none. I went on a bit of a rant the other day. We didn't get an email advertising the Ajax game until 24 hours before the game. Now that should have been, as soon as the Ajax game was announced, it should have been in your face. You should have had emails. It should have been on Twitter. It should have been players advertising it. Instead, people are just going to go, you know what? I'm not sure if Rangers TV is showing it. I'll just get it on the dodgy stick. That's what people are going to be doing because there's no communication coming out. There's no appetite for people for them to engage us. Everything is just all one way. We have to ask questions to get answers, whereas it shouldn't be that way. It should be a case of I'm a fan, and again, it's probably because the people that work in the club are probably getting things fed to them. So I don't think it's so. I know there'll be certain individuals that will be the easy targets because they're the name that sits behind a particular role. But the whole communication thing just needs ripped up and started again, and there needs to be better engagements. The fans forum, that's going to disappear now. Briscoe's gone. No board member is going to be brave enough to sit in Edmondson House now and field questions because they're going to be a death threat. You know what I mean? So it's a wild time to be a fan, and definitely a wild time to be running a supporters club.
Yeah, and honestly, you guys do it voluntarily, and the work that you've put in is unbelievable. And I think there's a lot of folk would thank you for that. And Reiss, quickly before we wrap things up, I didn't want to really preview to look forward, but we've got Manchester United at Midfield on Saturday, or what's probably going to look like a watered down Manchester United now in terms of ourselves. Looking at the Ajax game and what we kind of seen from that, which wasn't really much, what would you like to see different in this from us, Reiss, and how can you see setting up?
I'd like us to go full throttle for the word go. I don't think the whole half-time planned 8 subs and stuff like that. Like, I know they probably do it for sports science stuff and modern coaching methods and whatever, but I think fans just want to be entertained. See, especially when you're playing in Murrayfield, it's pre-season. It's probably the only pre-season game in Scotland we'll play this year. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but it's definitely the only one.
Right. Everything was planned away because the stadium works, and now we're away for God knows how long.
All the incentives there to go and entertain your fans, go and put in a show and try and get fans up for this season. Because I was saying that now, I think, yesterday rather, I think now it just feels like a chore for fans. They're going back to see the same players doing the same things at Hampden and worse environments or whatever. You're giving fans every reason to have a moan. So on Saturday, you just kind of want to see a bit of a spectacle, a couple of big name players in there, as many as Man United can get out anyway. Maybe some wee youth players that we might want to take on loan after it. And our best team to go out there and try and put in a bit of a performance. I don't think we'll take much out of it either way, whether we get beat or whether we win. But you just want a good game of football to go and watch. I think that's all fans are looking for at the minute.
Yeah, 100%. I think I get what you're saying there. You'd love to see a lot more of the new signings get a run out against what's potentially going to be a Man United B team, and talking about ticket prices and stuff like that, and they're astronomical. I can't see it being a sellout crowd. But again, another pre-season game under the belt. I'd love to see Danilo get some more minutes. I think that's what everybody's craving, is to see something a bit more fresh up front, something a bit newer. So it'd be great to see him starting up front. I'd love to see Danilo and Cortez playing together as well. Something I don't think that we've seen yet. But we could be here all night, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure having the two of you. Thank you for so much input and making my job very easy, although I got off to the worst 30 seconds possible because I kept YouTube open my other window. But thank you to everybody that's listened. Thank you to everybody that's commented as well. Remember, if you're new to watching this, I can see that numbers are pretty decent at the moment. Please subscribe below. It costs nothing. We do this for nothing, and that really, really helps us get on the way. So, gents, thank you very much. I'm going to wrap things up now.
Sorry, Kyran. I've just got a little shout out. That's all right.
Yes,
I was going to mention it earlier, but for those that are quite are on follow, will probably notice that the Rangers family lost someone this week. So it's a guy, Davey Henry. She was based out in Texas. He was a Texas Ranger on Facebook. I know he was quite vocal on there and stuff as well. But he was someone that I know certainly my dad knew when he was younger and stuff. And I've just been asking to give him a little shout out, just a little remembrance. But yeah, no, all the best, and any friends and family that are watching. Thoughts from behalf of everyone at This Is Ibrox is there for them. So yeah, there you go.
Very kind of you, and no more fitting way than to dedicate that to the Texas Ranger tonight. So thanks as ever to everyone that's tuned in and listened. We'll see you again on Sunday. If I can find the button for the outro, good night.